Hi, this is Rohan More, and today we're going to be discussing travel tips for your horses. Now, considering show season is in full swing and there's shows happening at all parts of the country, you might be wanting to travel your horses from your stable to different shows. Now, traveling horses, anybody who has traveled horses before, they know that traveling horses can be quite a stressful thing for both owner and horses. So here's a few ways to make that experience a lot easier for you. I like to look at traveling our horses divided into three separate phases: pre travel, things to do during travel, and things to do post travel. Now, if you follow all the necessary protocols well, traveling your horses should be an absolutely easy experience. Now, the first thing to do is to select the right kind of float or transport vehicle. Make sure that you're not traveling your horses in a vehicle that the roof is too low, or the horses don't have enough space, or the horses don't have enough ventilation. Another thing to think about is to make sure that the horses have got the right kind of flooring in the vehicle that you're traveling. I've seen a lot of horses with accidents due to them slipping and falling in vehicles with metallic floors. So make sure there's either some sort of a grass or a straw bedding, or even better, a rubber mat inside the vehicle that you are traveling them in. Another thing to make sure is that you make the vehicle is properly ventilated. Horses have an unfortunate tendency to get travel fever if they travel for long distances inside a poorly ventilated vehicle. The last thing you want to do is to reach your show ground and find out that your horse is either coughing or running a low grade temperature. Now, the other important thing in terms of preparation that you need to make sure about is to understand what are the local regulations regarding blood testing. Some places will require a mandatory of a Coggins and Glanders negative certificate, and you will need to check with your veterinarian to find out where you can get these blood tests done from. Some places will require also vaccines to be given to your horses with proper vaccination details. So once again, make sure that you're very clear and well planned in advance so that you can get all of these tests done and vaccines done without it being too stressful. Now, it's really important to understand one thing: most of these blood tests and vaccines take a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks to get done. So you need to start planning your show that far in advance. On the day of travel, I personally like to make sure that my horses have eaten a light meal and not a full heavy meal, and at least have been fed 2 hours before they travel. You don't want to travel a horse with a full stomach, because the stress of traveling and the vehicle moving slows down their digestion, and that can predispose them to getting a colic, which is a nightmare if your horses are on the road and you have a horse colicking inside your vehicle which you're traveling them in. Now, once they're loaded safely, what is important to also understand is to give them a hay net or give them some sort of dry grass to keep them nibbling and munching on all through the entire travel. Now, what that does is, very interestingly, also, because they're nibbling and eating things, it also keeps their gut moving and it keeps them distracted so that they don't stress and get too excited or upset about being inside a vehicle away from their familiar place. I also recommend you making a stop every 3 to 4 hours if your travel distance is going to be longer than that, to offer the horses some water to drink and to offer them a light snack. Avoid giving them heavy grain feeds during travel. And the reason why I will say avoid giving them heavy grain feeds during travel is, there was a research study that was conducted, and what they found is horses that traveled in over 2 hours actually showed a massive spike in their insulin levels when they were traveling as a response to the stress. Now, anyone who knows a thing or two about horses' metabolic disorders will tell you that one of the first things that actually comes in before your horse gets an attack of laminitis is this big insulin spike. So if we know that horses are prone to getting this, you might want to think about giving them a heavy feed just before traveling, because, well, we all know what laminitis can do, and we all want to make sure that we are doing everything in our power to make sure our precious horses are well looked after. The next thing that you want to do, like I said, is to make sure that the horses are well hydrated and have got electrolytes and water offered to them throughout the journey. In addition to that, once you have reached your destination, make sure that you give your horses at least a day to recover from the stress of their travel. A lot of horses, especially if it's their first couple of times traveling, the experience can be very overwhelming. New horses will come to a place, stop eating their feed, maybe not like the taste of the water, will stop drinking for some time. So all of these things are really important to manage, especially when you have a show animal that you want to make sure is looking and acting its best. Now, once you've ticked all these boxes and you've landed in the place where you are supposed to reach, start their feeds slowly. Don't just give them a big feed. Oh, you've traveled for so long, so I'm going to give you a big feed. No, start with a small feed, wait for a couple of hours, then you can give them another feed, and then slowly bring them up back into their regular feeding pattern. Also, walking them around and letting them stretch their body and legs is also going to help them recover from the stress of the travel much better.